Star Wars Outlaws arrives this week for everyone to buy and play on PC, Xbox Series S and X, and PS5, developed by Massive Entertainment, who made Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora as well as The Division 2. Published by Ubisoft, this game was nominated for the most highly anticipated game of 2024, and over the course of the last 6 days, I've been playing the heck out of it, since Massive was kind enough to offer me a review code of the game early. I've got a lot of thoughts about this game, plenty good, plenty not so good, but when it all comes down to it, I think this is a game that Star Wars lovers will likely enjoy, as its highest points are in the areas of nostalgia and fan service, as well as the game's execution on creating a vibrant Star Wars world for the player to explore. But there are technical drawbacks, frustrating forced mechanics, and an overemphasis on subterfuge that ultimately get in the way, frequently, of you being able to exercise your creative freedom or pledge your undying allegiances to characters and groups that you love. And so with that, let's dive into the review and let you know what you can expect from Star Wars Outlaws. Without dumping any major story spoilers on you, first let's set the stage, and know that this video will refrain from showing you late game content and spaces. In this section of the video, we'll talk about the basic story beat and the character that you'll be playing as. The hero of this tale is a poor street rat by the name of Kay Vess. She's likable enough, witty and approachable, and she has an adorable pet named Nix, who actually ends up being a pretty integral part of the game instead of just like a mindless companion that follows you around. Kay is naturally a talented thief, and the game begins like many stories before it begins, sort of like The Italian Job, the Solo movie, even The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 6, The Prisoner. So Kay takes on a big job with a big score, but finds herself left hanging out to dry with a death mark on her head. The rest of the game is all about evading capture while building up a crew for a score that's big enough to settle her debts to begin a new life. This means that Kay will be applying her unique set of skills to building underworld connections, upgrading her gear, and making a lot of money rather dishonestly. The game revolves around a reputation system among 4 different crime syndicates. Some of them may be familiar to you, like the Hutts and the Pikes, who we've seen in recent Star Wars shows like The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. But there's also the Crimson Dawn from the Solo movie, as well as a brand new syndicate called the Ashiga Clan. Kay can improve her standing with these syndicates by taking on contracts to help these crime families and unlock new tiers of jobs, unique affinity rewards, and cosmetics.
Crimson Dawn's been quite impressed with you lately.
And even gain access to the innermost rooms and spaces where only the elites in these families are permitted to walk. Initially, I really liked this idea. Like, the gamer in me loves to max out reputation with certain clans and guilds, etc., and then show off my affinity with special outfits that reflect the work that I put in. But this reputation system is actually quite frustrating at times, and that takes us into the next part of the review. Let's talk about how the game forces decisions on you too frequently. So the existence of a reputation system broadcasts to me, the gamer, that I have the freedom to really invest in a clan that I feel a connection to. For example, when I first started the game, I was strongly anti-Pike because of their treatment of my boy Cobb Vanth. So I allied myself with the Crimson Dawn to really stick it to the Pikes, but also because I really liked the Crimson Dawn's whole aesthetic, as well as the bonuses to stealth and gadgets that their unique gear provided. So I spent hours doing contracts for the Crimson Dawn to completely max out my reputation. But as soon as I reached the highest tier of affinity with them and unlocked new vendors, new contracts, access to high security spaces, and was receiving praise from their NPCs while I walked around their compound, I then immediately had a forced quest from the main quest line to double-cross the Crimson Dawn and please a completely different crime syndicate. There was no option to work with the Crimson Dawn to achieve my goals, and even though I completed the main quest mission completely in stealth, which was tedious, without being detected, upon completion, the Dawn immediately knew that I was to blame, and my reputation tanked all the way back down to more or less indifference. I lost access to the jobs I had unlocked, the vendors, the elite spaces, everything. And so began my multi-hour climb back into their good graces, because The unique armor sets that you unlock by maxing out your affinity only gain their set bonuses as long as you are still in good standing with that crime syndicate. So it's not a one and done. You have to maintain your reputation to enjoy the benefits of those new armor sets. All of this to say, regardless of how you, the player, feels about these families, you will be forced to double cross basically everyone in this game. K is looking out for K and K alone. You will betray the families you like and the ones that you don't. You will suck up to and serve the families that you hate as well as the ones that you love. And the lack of agency that gives you as the player can feel frustrating at times. Ultimately, it won't matter once you complete the main story beats. You could then have the freedom to go back and level up your affinities with these people, but at that point you've already played through the meat and potatoes of the game. And this would go over better if Kay's character behaved like a cutthroat scoundrel who didn't mind double-crossing all these people, but she doesn't. She's naive, she's too trusting, even empathetic with her inner dialogue. She too frequently drops lines like, yeah, I totally knew that, or yeah, that's totally what I was gonna do. And these make her come across as new to the crime world, naive to how things operate in the underworld, and a little out of place in this world. And that's fine, but it runs in complete opposition to the cutthroat double-crossing scoundrel that the main story forces you to be. The other frustrating area where the game forces your hand is with its overcommitment to stealth and subterfuge. I'll be honest, the gunplay is not that great in this game, but I overlook that a bit because it's really not what this game is trying to be or trying to accomplish. The primary focus is for you to be a thief, sneaking in and out, using nicks to sabotage devices, cause distractions so you can perform stealth takedowns, and even hit switches only he is small enough to access. And all of that is fun and interesting to do, but it's also quite slow. One small room could take several minutes to clear as you're waiting on guards to walk their complete routes so you can learn their routes and then start to manipulate them. And there's also a real hit to the immersion of the game when you do things like hack a turret to turn on the Imperial troopers in the compound and mow them down, but once the turret is finally destroyed, they just go back to walking their routes and stepping over the dead bodies of their comrades like nothing ever happened. All in all, the stealth approach can be quite engaging depending on the environment, but it can also get old quickly and turn tedious. Not to mention, I'm personally a little fatigued by the whole approach of just slapping yellow paint on everything that you can jump to or climb on. It's a little immersion breaking when you walk into a room and just see yellow paint splattered across a bunch of surfaces. With all of that said, let's move on to a system in the game that I did quite enjoy. So Outlaws has a lot of focus on upgrading and unlocking new gear and gadgets, and then increasing their potency. It does all of this rather intuitively as well. So opening up your upgrades menu will allow you to see all available upgrades to your gear, show you a short video about what that upgrade actually does specifically, and even allows you to track the components that you need to hunt down in order to unlock it. You can get smoke bombs, level them up so they cause a concussive blast to stun enemies as well. You can upgrade your speeder's top speed, maneuverability, durability. You can upgrade your blaster's rate of fire, accuracy, alternate firing modes. There's just a lot to do and unlock. And I find it really cathartic to just pick one thing I want to work on, go out into the world checking off the boxes of the items I need one at a time. And as you progress the main quest line, you'll meet new specialists who will give you access to an even wider range of upgrades as well. So it definitely pays off to try to check off as many of these off your list early in the gameplay so that you're ready to go after the new shinier upgrades when they become available. As I noted in the intro, one of the best things about the game is definitely the world they've built for you to play in and explore. Visiting Tatooine and walking the streets of Mos Eisley is a real high for Star Wars enthusiasts. Pumping both sticks forward to jump into hyperspace feels good. Cruising on a speeder through the back roads of unexplored planets feels genuinely exciting. And each planet or moon definitely has its own vibe that makes it distinct from other locations in the game. There are 4 main worlds where you'll be spending your time. There's Tashara, a windy moon with craggy spires and mesas dotted with outposts and farms. There's the frozen wasteland of Kajimi, which almost feels like a mountaintop Tibetan monastery in its design. Of course, there's Tatooine, marked by salt flats, moisture farms, and the wretched hive of scum and villainy itself, Mos Eisley, and finally the lush jungle world of Akiva. You have the freedom to progress through these sequentially if you like, or you can just jump from one to the next at any time depending on your mood and start clearing out locations and doing contracts and exploring the cities. There's also the vast void of space for you to explore with derelict vessels, pirate ships, and more. But what exactly can you do on these worlds? Well, each world is broken down into territories. There are neutral territories, there are territories that are controlled by a faction or a family of some kind. It could be under imperial control or a syndicate of some kind. The Pikes hate me and will kill me on sight, so anytime I pass through their territory, it spells trouble for me and an inevitable firefight. There are points of interest all across the map with hidden treasure, people to rob, enemies to kill, and more. You might find yourself saving some farmers from a pirate raid, or you may find yourself stealing all the valuables out of a poor farmer's home. It's really up to you. But do make sure that you look both ways before stepping into the street. A big part of traversing these spaces is gaining access to restricted areas and computers. The game has two main minigames to accomplish this. One of them is a rhythmic game that tests your timing. It will play a sequence of clicks and beeps, and your job is to input the command at the same time as the beeps. These can range from 2 beeps to 4 beeps in the sequence. There's also a splicing minigame where you have to find out where the runes go in the sequence. It'll tell you if the rune is in the right place, if it's in the sequence but in the wrong place, or if it's not in the sequence at all. Of the two games, I like the rhythmic one more. But both of these can be made easier with accessibility settings if you're really not getting down with either of them. Speaking of accessibility, one of the very first things I did was turn off widescreen. The game forces a widescreen aspect ratio to make the game feel more cinematic, but the game does not play very cinematically except occasionally, so I turned this feature off almost immediately. The last thing I really want to focus on is Nix. The game gets a lot better once you learn how to really leverage Nix in both stealth and combat. Having him jumping in front of security cameras, pickpocketing keycards for you, jumping on enemies' faces so you can go and attack the person next to them without them sounding the alarm, sabotaging alarms so that when people go to pull them, they get an electric shock. I mean, all of that is really fun to do. And the game gets a lot more interactive when you stop trying to do everything yourself. And make sure that you accessorize Nix as well. He deserves to look good out there for all of his hard work. So in summary, Star Wars Outlaws is certainly ambitious in its world design and scale, providing dozens of hours of exploration and traversal in distinctly Star Wars environments. But the gunplay is clunky at best, with an overemphasis on stealth that can quickly go from exciting to boring because of the sheer volume of stealth-related encounters. And the reputation system would work great in a world where the main story beats don't force you to double-cross the characters that you've come to love and respect. And there's lots to unlock and upgrade, taking Kay Vess from an amateur thief to an elite Star Wars scoundrel who knows her way around the criminal network of the galaxy. If you don't mind a slow-paced exploration and gear-based third-person adventure game, you might really get down with Outlaws. But if you're looking for a highly engaging game that gives you lots of creative freedom for how to approach the world and its environments, you may find the game too scripted against your wishes in a frustrating way. For me and my tastes, I would have to give the game a score of 71 out of 100. It loses a lot of points in key areas like agency and affinity as well as repetition, but the world is beautiful, Nix is cute, and the protagonist is overall fairly likable, and I don't mind playing as her. And that's my review of Star Wars Outlaws. Hopefully you found this review insightful and you have a better idea of what to expect for this new addition to the Star Wars universe. It'll be interesting to see if Star Wars, the cinematic universe, between the movies and the shows begins to incorporate any references to this new game, the way that some of the other games' events and characters have been referenced, making them official canon in the Star Wars world. Will the Ashiga clan ever show up again? Will Kay Vess's adventures be mentioned? Only time will tell. Thanks so much for watching my review. Feel free to leave a like and a comment if you found it helpful, and hopefully a solid C grade isn't enough to upset anyone, but we will see. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in a cantina somewhere. Bye-bye.